This is the Virtual Happy Hour Experience. We are back this week with a great show. Getting into the show or before the show, make sure to smash the like, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell to all when you do. Share this content on social media with your friends and comment in the YouTube channel below. Helps the algorithm. We're trying to grow this channel. Terrific content, interviewing brilliant people, extraordinary drinks with extraordinary individuals is the theme, and I'm welcoming back tech guru, great friend, Polish prince, Alex Czartoryski. Alex, how the hell are you, buddy? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, life's busy, but as the old saying goes, don't get too busy working because you got to make room for a life, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about this, not just to talk with you, but also I'm on day 4 of a 5-day fast. And so this glass of wine I'm going to have today is a bit of a cheat, but it'll be extra delicious for me drinking.
Excellent. And we're going to get into Web 3.0. We're going to talk a bit about SEO again, because search engine optimization is a brilliant way to grow your business. If you do not have a presence online or online through social media, a strong website, or a store like Shopify, it will be a struggle to expand your business. You'll be back in the 1980s before the web really took off. So let's talk Web 3.0, Alex, and blockchain. And on that note, let's get into it with drinks, because this always excites the viewers. Cheers to everybody. I have a West Mall Trappist Ale. This is Monk beer. Monk's proliferated beer. Monks really kept viticulture and brewing alive in the Middle Ages. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the world entered a dark period. The monks were great with scientific inquiry. I'm actually drinking this out of a Leffe glass, sacrilege. Leffe is an abbey beer, which means it's commercially brewed at the supervision of monks. Trappist beer is by the Trappist monk order. This came from the Benedictines to the Cistercians. Napoleon, when he sacked France, his own country, took it over and then sacked a lot of the neighboring territories en route to trying to rule the world. Crushed monasteries, and this disorder disbanded. And what happened was the Cistercians became the Trappists. And the Trappists came back after the fall of Napoleon, set up monasteries predominantly in France and into Belgium. This is in West Mall, I believe, obviously in Belgium. And the Trappist order wanted to adhere to a strict regimen. But one of the things the monks could do to attune to the spiritual was either distill, brew, or work in viticulture. And it's funny because what we enjoy in a glass today is thanks to the monks. Now, this is the first triple brewed ever by anyone in the world. It's triple fermented. This is high alcohol beer. We're looking at 9.5%. It's bottle conditioned, so it goes through the second fermentation in bottle. Gets up to about 10.5%. I mean, this is like barley wine. You got wonderful notes of things like nutmeg, a lot of brown spice in there. You have, of course, a bit of honey on the palate. A bit of hop kick. I think it's definitely got about 34 IBUs or bittering units out of 100. The bittering in this would be comparable to an American pale ale. It is pale golden in color, as you can see, or pale honey golden. Some good acidity, a lot of effervescence in this beer. It's very rich. Almost has a rum-like characteristic to it as well. Boozy would come to mind. I would not suggest going on a driving trip if you have more than 1 or 2 of these, because that's like the equivalent of about 4 or 5 beers. So what do you have there, Alex, in the happy hour? You've got something in your hand.
So I'm drinking a Spanish Rioja, Crianza 2015.
Nice, great vintage.
Me and my family spent quite a bit of time in Spain over the years, so we're partial to Riojas and Ribera del Dueros, and we quite enjoy that type of wine. So that's what I'm savoring right now.
Nice. What kind of flavor notes do you get on that on the palate? Share your experience. It is a happy hour.
My wine vocabulary isn't quite as refined as yours, Rob. So maybe you'll have to guide me along here with this. You had mentioned in the green room that I should taste some dill in here too.
Well, that comes from the American oak. The Spanish use American oak. It's cheaper for production costs. It's something that they're really inherent to using. Dill is definitely a byproduct from American white oak, as well as flavor notes like vanilla and coconut. The grape is Tempranillo predominantly. Rioja is brilliant because it's already aged when you get it. By the time you get it, I mean, you're drinking a wine that's 7 years old. It's meant to drink now. It's spent, a combination of 2 years in oak and bottle for aging before release, sometimes a lot longer, such as this one. And you get a lot of notes, like you get tobacco leaf, you get a lot of cherry in there, you get some dried fruit. Now, the beauty of these wines is they tend to be low acid. So if somebody has acid reflux or they don't adjust well to acidic wines, this is definitely a go-to. It's higher on the pH balance. It's also medium in body, medium plus in texture. It's got some fairly good tannic structure to it. And it's just great. I mean, this is great with things like braised beef come to mind. I would definitely have this with, or beef stews, sausage, pork sausage, barbecued sausage, things like that.
I agree. You're making me
That's
think
a little
of,
bit about that anyway,
yeah, of meat.
Yes.
Talking about great foods to a guy who hasn't etten in 4 days. So
yeah, no, that fasting challenge. Probably dive into a steak after this discussion, Alex. But let's get into Web 3.0, NFTs, how these are influencing the marketplace. Now, you obviously started your journey with search engine optimization. Before we begin on Web 3.0, how relevant is search engine optimization in today's world?
I think it's very relevant. Google's obviously a monster in the space, and most people go to Google to start their web journey, whether it's typing in a website name or doing a broad search. So being present in there is very important. Kind of a distinction to make with SEO is so there's the paid side of SEO and the organic side of SEO. The paid side is usually called SEM or pay-per-click. The paid ads are usually the ads that show up on top, and that's a pay-to-play game where it's basically an auction. Whoever's willing to pay the most per click shows up first. And then below those are the organic listings that are based on, to simplify it, kind of the content on your website and how many other websites link back to you. If you're an authority in the space, you'll rank higher. If you're not, you'll rank lower. And being in those top things can be huge for any business.
And it can definitely draw a lot of revenue.
Yeah, huge. And I specialize in the paid side of things, although I am well versed in the organic side. Kind of the paid is my bread and butter. I'm a software developer kind of by training and a math guy, and so I really the paid side has a lot of data that can really optimize and squeeze out the revenue. And yeah, it's definitely where super important to be able to track your revenue and know that for every dollar you spend on an ad, you want to be making $3 or $4 in revenue.
I'm wondering how this is. Yeah, it's very important. I'm wondering how is this going to tie into Web 3.0, the blockchain version of the web that is coming upon us, where we're going to be immersed into augmented reality, virtual reality, the metaverse. I mean, you even have platforms of cryptocurrencies, but true platforms like Sandbox and Decentraland, where you can walk around this virtual world, buy virtual real estate, have virtual drinks in a bar, engage with people's avatars. You think search engine optimization is going to tie into this?
In a couple of ways, although it raises some really good questions, is that so for example, although Google's a monster, a lot of people currently go to Amazon for buying a product. So they don't even go to Google, they just go to Amazon and do a search there. And with the proliferation of kind of those smart speakers like Alexa, Siri, and the Google HomePods, more and more people are going to be saying like, hey Alexa, buy a set of batteries. And then Alexa decides what batteries to buy. And when you think about I don't know if it's search optimization, but the optimization to try and be the battery of choice for Alexa. Now you're marketing to a computer and not a human anymore, or like you're marketing to a personal assistant that knows about the human. And if you think about Web3, where you're, let's kind of skip Web3 a bit or focus on kind of the metaverse potential, which isn't totally Web3, but is part of Web3 and could be certainly Web3. How does advertising work in the metaverse? If when you walk into somewhere and want to buy a pair of virtual sneakers, what brand gets shown and all that? And so there's definitely an aspect of that needs to be thought about, but it'll probably be drastically different than kind of traditional SEO. And it raises the other issue of the importance of although SEO and paid marketing is super important, you shouldn't have all your eggs in that Google basket, because you could get banned potentially at some point if you do something weird, or life could transition to elsewhere. So it could go towards everything goes towards an Amazon or towards a metaverse or towards voice activated speakers, where the work you've done on Google doesn't necessarily translate to the work in these other platforms. And so it's super important to build a real business, build a great product, build a great brand that people will seek out and want, no matter what the platform or channel it's distributed in.
Yeah, very crucial. I mean, I think building the drunken grape, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a great virtual or a live or a hybrid experience, please reach out to me. That's a little bit of a sales pitch there in the wine, spirits, and beer world, as well as virtual dinner parties for the absolute immersed experience of engagement and fun. And getting back to that, I mean, there's going to be things hosted in the virtual world, but people still have to search for things. And I think that it's going to get ever more complex. And maybe search engine optimization will move into, where do I find that plot of land I want to buy in the virtual world? Or where do I want to find that product virtually that I can have sent to me in a physical form? But you talked about the running shoes. I know our good friend Nazim Ahmed is working on things like this right now, and into Web 3.0 and into the NFT space, into the whole digital running shoes. Some really cool things going on. Trying to get my head around it. And for any of you listening, this really has taken a journey from Web 1, Web 0.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. In the 90s, it was your simple HTML page or text pages that proliferated the web. Decentralized. People could find information about just about anything and everything. Really, the impetus to the explosion of the internet was Web 1.0. Then, of course, social media, video conferencing, latter stages, things like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, Riverside FM that we're using here. Big shout out to them. Great podcasting platform. This is all part of Web 2.0. It's immersing the actual social experience into the web. Web 3.0 takes blockchain, so it's decentralized, takes the same basis of cryptocurrencies. Decentralized means there's no real one single centralized owner. It's all shared ownership, like a community on the web itself. But Web 3.0 allows for the whole virtual reality and augmented reality full-blown experience where you are actually immersed as an avatar yourself into the digital world. And there's definitely some criticisms for this. I know that Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk think it's an overblown term. It's overhyped. Others think that it's going to transform things. Others are really concerned about how much more control tech companies will have on our lives as we fight back against the controls they currently have. So I know NFTs are pretty cool because you can, it's great for staking ownership. It's great for certifications of authenticity, proof of ownership, subscription services, membership services. These all become sellable assets. And that's where I really see the space moving. It's kind of hard to see somebody spending 24/7 in a virtual world. You still have to physically eat and do things and live in a physical space. maybe it's Klaus Schwab's happy spot. You're going to own nothing and be happy. Who knows? But
it's definitely Web3 is a new frontier, and you're dealing with a lot of unknowns and uncertainty. And I'm sure 95% of the projects will fail, and the other 5% will need to pivot to something new. But there's definitely people that are going to make fortunes on it, and will lose fortunes as well.
For
what's
sure.
interesting though is that there's a lot of things that are being built on Web3 that, so for example, when you're talking about virtual reality, that can exist without Web3. And there's other things that could exist without Web3 too, where Web3 theoretically brings value is that you, as an individual in this metaverse, you could own things without needing some centralized authority to dictate what you own. So via NFTs, you could theoretically move your virtual sneakers via an NFT through different worlds or different games and maintain ownership of them and sell them without having to have a third party dictating what you can or can't do. But on the flip side of that, when we're talking about decentralization, although in theory Web3 is decentralized, in practice it's not necessarily so. So people that are building applications on Web3, instead of programming it against Web3 directly, they use APIs. So these tools to allow them to build things faster. But there's only 2 or 3 API companies out there that provide this. And so there's a big centralization that if any of those go down, it could bring down a lot of the rest of the applications. And similarly, a platform like OpenSea, where most people trade their NFTs on, it's still a single platform, and it's not unreasonable to think that in the future it'll be like a winner take all scenario, like with Google, who dominates the search platform, that an OpenSea will dominate all NFT sales, and then you're kind of back to being centralized again.
That's true. And, I've got an article from Harvard Business Review up here. There's a great video. I think it'll be too long to play for the purpose of this show. It's going to chew up like 2 minutes of it. But there's a great video that talks about Web 1.0 to Web 3. Talks about, I think it's ARPANET. I'm going to lift this up a little bit, but ARPANET talks about the U.S. government's messaging service in 1969. As the web we know didn't emerge into 1991. And then you've got HTML and URLs made it possible. And then it talks about Web 2.0 in the early 2000s, as we talk about with the explosion of social media. So that's a great site to go to. It's something that's kind of cool. It breaks it down. It's definitely going to be an enhanced user experience. And as you mentioned, you're right on my research too. We're already seeing the decentralization of cryptocurrencies and exchange platforms where you can get wallets. I mean, look at Binance, look at crypto.com, you have Coinbase. It's already really down to 3 powerhouses. And it already is a winner take all, because you think about it, these exchanges control hundreds of billions of dollars of each of cryptocurrency out there. They're not going anywhere. These are basically the Apple, Microsoft, and Google of the platforms now.
Yeah, and there's an angle to be made where, so for going back to let's say called Web 2.0, the standard website, and you look at the cloud, for example, where you have a few big players like Amazon, Google, and whatnot. That's not necessarily because Google and Amazon wanted to be the only players. It's because individuals don't want to bother with setting up their own servers and their own IP. So there's certain things where the customer is saying, hey, I don't want to deal with this stuff. Like someone else do this for me and figure this stuff out. And I think some of that Web3 stuff is also going to happen, because currently, so I registered a domain name on a Web3 platform, a .eth domain name.
Ah, cool.
And it's pretty painful overall currently. So that's going to, obviously with time, that's going to get streamlined and it's going to get cheaper. But I could see as you start to abstract the technical details away from the end customer and make things easier and easier, the end customer is going to want someone else to be taking care of that. Like no one wants to be managing their own domain names and all the nitty gritty details of it. They want someone else to do it for you. And so I think, although decentralization is great, there's also this pull to centralization, which has big benefits as well. And it'll be interesting to see how things go and how things play out. But it's definitely a lot of unknowns and probably pretty exciting to be in that space because things are changing really fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to share with you a cryptocurrency I invest in called Theta. Now, Theta is decentralized. You know, it's a decentralized video streaming, gaming platform, but they're really heavily into the NFT space. The co-founder of this is Jamie Chen, who is a co-founder of YouTube, I believe. And this is taking off. They have contracts with Sony and Samsung and some other global powerhouses. And the beauty of this, and they are just going to be incredibly powerful. They'll be the YouTube power of Web 3.0. If you haven't invested in this, I highly recommend you do so. It's not even listed on Coinbase yet. And it's recovering quite rapidly as from the crash of all cryptos recently. But this is a great buying opportunity. And can you imagine being involved in the premier cryptocurrency that is moving blockchain video and entertainment to you as right through Web 3.0? I mean, can you just imagine being part of this? This is incredible. You can check them out, but this is just an awesome coin to own. And when it gets listed in Coinbase, it's going to skyrocket in value, especially when it opens up fully to the U.S. market. It's on Binance USA now, so it's just a matter of time. But what are your thoughts on things like this, my friend?
So mixed overall. So I think there's a separation between the value of a coin or token like this and the underlying use case. And so I don't know anything about Theta, but I assume that to stream videos, you're going to need to have some of these coins, and it's going to be a currency to stream them. And so as the price of Theta coin increases, so does the price of streaming the videos. And so as the price of videos increases, it decreases the value, the kind of the intrinsic technical usefulness of the coin, because it becomes too expensive to stream properly. And so you get into these weird scenarios where if people are buying a coin to speculate on price increase, it decreases the actual usefulness of the coin. And you see that a bit in Web3, where in kind of the Ethereum-based Web3, where so when I'm registering a domain name, I need to pay a gas fee in Ethereum for every transaction I made. So when I need to update my DNS records, I need to pay in Ethereum. And the more Ethereum is worth, the more money it costs me for that. So for example, when I registered my domain name, I initially tried to register for 1 year, but there was $100 in gas fee. So the domain name was costing me $10, but the gas fee was $100. So I registered for 15 years because I'm paying the same gas fee for that one transaction. So it cost me $150 for the domain name and $100 in gas fees. So I set it up, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to change a DNS record so it points to my website, for example. And it's like, oh, that's another transaction. It's going to cost you $40 to do that. And I was like, well, okay, so it's every little thing costs money, and so to make it really useful, the cost of these transactions needs to be very, very low.
Yeah, and that's a big criticism of Ethereum, especially Bitcoin. Gas fees are brutal. I know things like Theta, the gas fees are probably going to be very cheap. Some of them are a few cents, a few pennies in gas fees. I know Cardano is another great decentralized finance platform. It's very cheap to do transactions on there, and and it's very quick. And it's the power consumption too.
The other point it makes, like outside of gas fees, if you have a coin whose purpose is a technical usefulness. So, for example, for doing distributed video streaming or distributed file storage, then the incentive for it to be worth a lot of money, it goes against the technical usefulness of it. And so people that are purchasing the coin to speculate on its price aren't necessarily going with the same incentive as the people who are building the platform with the intent of wanting to have a distributed streaming platform.
Yeah, and at least the beauty of a coin company like Theta with its coin is they're working with legitimate powerhouses and legitimate projects, and they've got them underway now with, it's going to be in handhelds. It's going to be on future Samsung phones, initially launching, I believe, in Korea and expanding out from there. It's going to be embedded into things like Sony televisions. So the tech is now there on that use case, which is pretty incredible. So that justifies some of the valuation of it. But I do hear you. Like if you're to run through their streaming service, you're going to have to burn what's called T-Fuel, not the actual Theta coin, but they have another coin called T-Fuel. But it's a lot cheaper to purchase. It's in the pennies, not the dollars. But it still costs you to run the service. There is no question about it. Can you guide people into how to set up domain names now on Web 3.0? Because I think there's a huge service there, Alex, if you can get that rolling.
So I did it once. I don't remember exactly the exact steps. I'd have to go back and do it again and record the steps. I'd say it wasn't too technically difficult, but it required going back and forth and setting up and making sure that you had the right kind of Ethereum wallet set up and that they had enough Ethereum in the wallet. And then there's a few different services. So there's like the .eth domain names that run on Ethereum, and then there's a bunch of other ones that run on other blockchains like XYZ domain names. And so there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm sure it's changing quickly, but it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't super easy. It was kind of it was very doable, but you kind of needed to wrap your head around the whole NFT and crypto space and understand how wallets work and how addresses work. So if you're brand new to that, it's a worthwhile experience to do because you learn a lot through the process. So I would recommend people who are interested in the Web3 space to try and go and register their domain name or try and buy an NFT and set up their wallet and see how that all works.
I'm going to have to get you to guide me through this because I'm going to buy my company's domain name. I own the name, so that's the beauty of it. Somebody tries to steal it, it's a registered copyright. Good luck with it. I'll sue you. But I mean, it's cool. And Ethereum is definitely the strongest platform. I mean, Ethereum will rival Bitcoin in overall valuation quite soon. The use case of Ethereum is massive. It is a brilliant utility platform. Man, that's a good cryptocurrency. That's like a gold standard cryptocurrency to hold long term, that and BTC, without question. I wonder what's going to happen with the descriptor of things like why you have a chalice in the beer world and in the NFT or the Web 3.0 space. Obviously, chalice is used to lift the aromas, brings out some of the fruitiness in this beer as well. Other flavor descriptors, great, really dry beer, this style. But it's going to be interesting how you immerse things because, we got to go on board. For instance, I'm going to show you something quick before we wrap this up. We've been a little longer than normal, but we've had a great discussion. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, get involved in this. Listen to this. Share the content because we're sharing some great insights into NFTs, Web 3.0, cryptocurrencies. But I want to showcase a spec sheet. And I'm just wondering what would happen with this. You've got West Mall, the Triple. You've got to dig up and find information about this, right? Talks about the origin, first brewed in 1934 as the original Triple. Really revolutionized brewing. These are the top end and most opulent of beers, some of the most sought after beers in world designated regions. But, I go in here. Wouldn't it be cooler to enter a virtual world to literally have a monk from West Mall all of a sudden discuss the beer with you?
Yeah, it would be cool. It'd be cool once it gets to the matrix levels where you're actually smelling the beer and tasting it.
And, it's eventually going to happen. Sci-fi leads the way. I mean, we looked at handhelds and laughed in Star Trek going, oh, he's got his communicator. Beam me up, Scotty. That's a cell phone now. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's only getting more and more evolved. Listen, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Alex? Obviously, LinkedIn is a great way to get a hold of you. I'm going to draw that profile up really quickly.
I'd say LinkedIn or Twitter, although I'm not particularly active on those platforms. If someone pings me, I'll usually respond.
What's your handle on Twitter?
It's ACZARTO.
That's pretty easy to remember. H. Harto. And Alex, of course, you've been, you're really well versed in tech. I think because you have such a strong knowledge or background. Actually, it's not even allowing me to LinkedIn. I'll have to share the link later on in the show notes. My phone is used as a light right now, so I'm trying to get in. That's not working. But anyway, listen, you're always a gem. Cheers to you, brother. Happy hours, and ladies and gentlemen, Alex, thank you for being on the show. I hope this isn't hitting you too hard with that 5-day fast that you have going on. But whatever you decide to do, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to reach out to Alex Czartoryski on LinkedIn. Make sure to reach out to me if you have any questions. You can hit me up at rob@thedrunkengrape.com. Whatever you decide to do, have a terrific day. Alex Czartoryski, your brilliant guest. I'm your host, Rob, from The Drunken Grape.
Thanks, Rob.